What have you always wanted to know about Boise State Public Radio? Join us for another round Wednesday, March 19th at Mad Swede Brew Hall in downtown Boise from 6 to 8 p.m. Learn more about our operations, news content, and our service mission. We welcome your questions and look forward to sharing more about what we do here at Boise State Public Radio. More details can be found on our website at boisestatepublicradio.org.
More Idaho Matters now from the studios of Boise State Public Radio News. I'm Gemma Gaudette. Video games are extremely popular, and the number of people who play them grew dramatically during the COVID-19 pandemic. Some estimates say as many as 3 billion, yes, that's billion with a B, people play video games, and more than 215 million play the games in the United States. So as Michael Allen was sitting down playing Minecraft and World of Warcraft, he started thinking about how he could use these games to help him teach international relations at Boise State University. Turns out these games are easy ways to look at trade, terrorism, human rights, monetary policy, even civil war. So Allen, who is professor and lead of the political science program at Boise State, wrote a book. It's titled The Gamer's Guide to International Relations, and he is here to tell us more about how he's using popular video games to explain the concepts of international relations. Allen, welcome to the show. I am so interested in talking more about this.
Hi, Gemma. Thank you for having me.
So, Michael, let's talk about the fact that you're a gamer yourself. So when did you get the idea to use games to actually teach international relations?
So I am very much a gamer myself. I do play video games, obviously, board games, card games, role-playing games, miniature games, anything that's really strategic. I find some enjoyment in playing that. And both in my teaching, I also, within the classroom itself, end up using a lot of simulations or types of games to try to impart important concepts to my students. So, as you said, lots of people play video games across the world in the United States. And it seemed kind of like there's this natural thing where I have something that I enjoy as a hobby myself, and I already actively use within the classroom. And the more I interact with the things I do in the classroom and play the games that I play and start thinking about it a little bit too deeply, I see that there's some natural connections there between those games and some very difficult concepts within international relations that students and other people may already have access to understand these concepts, but just in a different context. And it would seem like there would be a way to transfer some of that knowledge from one domain that's maybe more fun to another domain that's a lot more serious and perhaps complicated. But if we unpack those ideas a little bit more, we can see the interconnections between those two things. There has been books in political science on things like the connections between The Simpsons and political science, or science fiction and international relations, or zombies and international relations. But there hasn't really been this type of book that exists that connects gaming and international relations. And it seemed like a huge oversight to me because so many people play games in one facet or another. One of the things when on social media, when it says one of my friends has a birthday, like everyone else, I'll say happy birthday. But one of the questions I will ask when I wish him happy birthday is, what was your favorite game you've played in the last 12 months? Because invariably, we all play some type of game. And whether it is, say, Wordle or a video game or a board game with friends and family, those all seem like things that we actively participate in one way or another.
So I want to talk about some of the games, the video games that you teach in your class. And I personally find this fascinating because I have two boys, 16 and 13. They play video games. And I have to say, these are not the video games that we grew up with. There is such thought that has to go into these games, is what I have learned. And I've also learned how especially if they're playing with a friend, how they have to work together to get to certain levels. So can we start with Fortnite? Because that's one of the things that really stood out to me when I was watching my kids play, is I'm like, you're actually having to work together to solve a problem to get further in the game.
Yeah, so there's a couple major theories of international relations. One is realism, the other is liberal institutionalism, and one focuses on how states, for example, want to accumulate power and survive, and the other focuses on how states can cooperate with each other and be able to gain more by working together and find place games or situations where there is a positive sum product from them working with each other. And Fortnite is certainly a game that can have examples of both. It's a game where you are trying to take first place out of 100 people.
Hmm.
And so your goal is to eliminate all the other people. And so the idea of it being a world in which it's just you against everyone else and you have to fight to survive may be a game that seems more like a realist world where it's all about power and survival and who wins. But you're right in that Fortnite has a lot of situations where you need to work with other people. And by working with other people, either because you see someone else on the field that is an enemy but can temporarily be an ally, or you're playing in a team game where you're playing with a partner or up to three other people, and you have to collectively work towards your goal of surviving and being the best team in the game. One of the examples I give this within the book about Fortnite and cooperation is the idea of comparative advantage. It states,
Mm.
and economists don't agree on a lot of things, but one of the things that economists generally agree on is that trade is beneficial to all actors involved as a voluntary exchange. And it helps when states specialize in what they're good at producing and are able to produce those things well in higher quantities and then trade their surplus to other states and get what they're good at and work together. And in Fortnite, you find similar circumstances that one player may be better with a particular type of weapon or a particular kind of strategy. And if you get something that your friend is better at using, you should give it to them and they'll give you the stuff you're better at using. And together you can specialize and be a more effective team as a result of that. And so there's some
So
small little things like that that you don't necessarily think about while you're playing it, but have very clear analogies to how the real world works.
yeah, and then you have a game like Minecraft, and we should tell people this: Minecraft has sold more than 300 million copies. This is highly popular. And correct me if I'm wrong, Michael, because I mean I've heard my kids talk endlessly about Minecraft, but my understanding is that it's you kind of build your own world.
Mhm.
So how does Minecraft then relate to international relations? What can we learn from that?
So I play Minecraft with my 10-year-old daughter, and she loves the game quite a bit. And I think one of the things that's great about it is it's incredibly flexible. You get to decide what kind of game you want to play. It could be a game where your goal is to beat the game by fighting the Ender Dragon. It could be a game where you just want to create art. It could be a game where you want to make massive buildings. The rules of the game are something that you get to, if you're playing by yourself, you decide, or if you're playing with others, you can collectively decide what you want to do. And so there is a idea of international relations that how we interact with each other as states and in the world is socially constructed. We get to decide what matters and how those things matter for us. In some games, diamond armor is the best armor you can get because it can help you survive and fight a lot of monsters. In other games, diamonds can be not very valuable or it could just be a piece of art. And so in the real world, in international relations, how we conduct ourselves. The things we think that matter are things that we collectively agree on. What kind of language we use in treaties, how we draw our borders, things like that are a collective agreement and involves us reinforcing those ideas and deciding, this is something that a state should be doing or something a state shouldn't be doing. And that kind of collective imagination that creates the rules that we operate by are things that kids, adults, students are all doing all the time when they decide to engage in this game and decide what kind of world they want to create.
I have about a minute left with you, and I mentioned that you wrote a book about this. This really is designed as a teaching tool. So, are you using this in your classroom?
So I'm using it in two ways. In one classroom, I give my students an option of a couple different books that they could use to supplement their understanding of international relations. Some students don't want to read about zombies. They don't want to read about science fiction, but they may like video games. And so I'll give them a couple different choices and say, if you're really into video games, this will help you to understand the world of international relations and kind of let you draw upon knowledge you're already an expert in. Or if you don't want to do video games, then there might be another book for you. In the fall, I'll be teaching my first class that is based on the book, where we will be using both video games in the class to try to unpack and understand complicated topics about democracies, autocracies, trade, warfare, and the like. And the class is called World Politics Through Gaming. And so as we try to understand the games we play, as we bring the games we're experts in to the classroom, then students can become experts on this topic and understand also how these things apply to real world political interactions and structures. And so there's a couple different ways, and the book is aimed towards students. It's also aimed towards gamers who want to understand international relations a bit more as well. But I'm really excited about my class in the fall, World Politics Through Gaming, because it's going to be an online experience, and I think students who like gaming are going to find a lot of utility from it.
Well, I agree with you. So fascinating. We've been speaking with Michael Allen. He is a professor and lead of the political science program at Boise State. He just wrote a book titled The Gamer's Guide to International Relations. I'm Gemma Gaudette, and this is Idaho Matters.